We live in a culture where women are not valued as much as men. It's not fair, it's not rational, it's kind of nuts, but there it is.
Our Bodies Ourselves took a stand against the general public of America's hate towards abortion and the inability of organizations and schools to educate women about sexuality in their own bodies. Since the book went against many people's views, it was banned in many libraries across the country for encouraging homosexuality and being pornographic, which is unbecoming of a woman. Since then, Our Bodies Ourselves has been used as a staple feminist work which helped push forward the women's health rights movement, as well as educate all people about the truth of birth control and sexuality. This was a rebellion in and of itself, but it was a successful one whose legacy still has an impact on modern-day issues and views. Our Bodies Ourselves is a revolutionary book published in the early 1970s by the Boston Women's Health Collective, containing information about women's health and sexuality. The book openly discusses subjects such as birth control, female sexual identity, and abortion, all of which were considered to be taboo at the time the book was first published.
A group of women meeting at a workshop entitled Women in Their Bodies decided to continue to meet. They had been talking about hot topics around sexuality and healthcare. And of course you have to understand that several decades ago we had no information at the lay language level for women about women's healthcare, very minimal information about sexuality. We were in the dark ages.
The 12 women were greatly inspired by the conference and its unashamed, straightforward dialogue on women's health. It sparked a desire to make discussions like those from the conference an integral part of education.
We wanted answers, and we wanted to be treated with respect, and we wanted to be valued for our intelligence and our creativity and our contribution to making a better world.
Hence, the Boston Women's Health Collective, an organization which researched women's health and sexuality, was formed. The group held courses on various topics of women's health.
Miriam Hawley said in the documentary, "She's Beautiful When She's Angry," "We came together with a passion for a project. We would do a course on women and their bodies, and if women were excited about the material, they would take it into their communities, their neighborhoods, and just pass on the information."
Soon after its founding, the collective published their insights in an educational encyclopedia in 1970 titled Women and Their Bodies, later becoming Our Bodies Ourselves. The book has sold over 4 million copies all over the world since.
The goals were sharing this information, dissemination of this information to women, to men, to everybody who would be interested. We thought it would benefit everybody.
The book went through many changes. For example, in the first edition, there was a chapter on lesbianism called "In America They Call Us Dykes," which was renamed as Loving Women, Lesbian Life and Relationships because the word dyke was too derogatory. Also, the book's title changed from Women in Their Bodies to Our Bodies Ourselves in order to emphasize women taking full ownership of their bodies. Single-topic books on menopause and pregnancy have also been released. To accommodate all women around the world, OBOS has been translated into many different languages and adapted to fit with different cultures.
The birth control movement helped lead to the writing of Our Bodies Ourselves. The birth control movement was a social movement in the early 20th century which introduced contraceptives to the general public. Before the movement, the Federal Comstock Act of 1873 suppressed the circulation of obscene articles, which included all information on available forms of birth control. The birth control movement was largely led by Margaret Sanger, a public health nurse and radical social reformer. In 1921, she founded the American Birth Control League, which later became the Planned Parenthood Federation. Several Supreme Court cases from 1936 to 1971 allowed birth control to become more and more accessible. The birth control movement succeeded in eliminating legal impediments to distributing birth control information and prescribing contraception. Movements like this one sparked conversation between women about reproduction and health, ultimately leading to the conversations that inspired Our Bodies Ourselves.
Our Bodies Ourselves provided more momentum to the sexual revolution. Beginning in the early 1960s and persisting through the 70s and 80s, the sexual revolution challenged traditional societal ideals in regard to sexuality and romantic relationships. At the time, women were considered passive participants in sex. There was no mention of a woman's own desires, nor discussion of the possibility of non-traditional relationships. These ideals were specifically portrayed in the media. For example, in the popular 50s show I Love Lucy, Lucy and her husband Ricky sleep in separate beds. Only bold movie directors signified sexual intercourse by having wind blow through curtains of a room. OBOS took a stand by helping spark the discussion on women's sexuality, as the book addresses physical and emotional aspects of sex and was among the first non-fiction work to factually discuss a woman's sexual desires. OBOS was also the first book to openly talk about homosexual relationships.
Before the court case Roe v. Wade, many states had laws which criminalized abortion. In the places it was allowed, abortion was only legal in limited situations. Most people were forced to get illegal and unsafe abortions, either self-performed or done by an amateur. Illegal abortions in the 1950s and 60s caused about 1 million deaths. Roe v. Wade was one of the most controversial Supreme Court cases. The court decided that being denied abortion was unconstitutional as it impinges on a woman's right to privacy. Abortion remains a controversial topic and people have become divided by their views on it. Some are pro-choice, believing that a woman's right to abortion is absolute. Others are pro-life, believing that a fetus's right to life is indisputable.
Our Bodies Ourselves took a stand by educating people on abortion. Before OBOS, there was an extreme lack of education among women about pregnancy. Madeline Feuer, a psychologist who worked at an abortion clinic, said, "A lot of women got pregnant because they really did not have any education about how they would get pregnant. No idea, most of them, no idea." Our Bodies Ourselves educated people on how they could get pregnant and why birth control and abortion were helpful ways to control reproduction.
OBOS sparked conversation about women's rights. However, some organizations believed that it was inappropriate, so it was banned for promoting homosexuality and having sexually explicit material. Jerry Falwell, a pastor and conservative activist, launched a public crusade against OBOS, calling it obscene trash and claiming it to be anti-family and anti-Christian. OBOS contained many contentious topics. The most controversial topics in the first edition included lesbianism, since at the time there was a resistance against homosexuals, abortion, because of the many mixed reviews about it, and masturbation, as it was considered inappropriate and pornographic. However, the book was considered very influential. Women's groups in other countries wanted the information from the book, leading to the many translations and adaptations of OBOS.
And people wanted to know about Our Bodies Ourselves. They wanted to know how a small group of women did this. And they said to us, you know, this information saves our lives.
In the medical realm, OBOS inspired patients to be active consumers in the healthcare system instead of passive recipients because the book laid out the importance of decision-making between the doctor and the patient. OBOS sparked the idea of women taking control of their bodies, and over the years, the book has opened up its definition of a woman. It has added information about lesbianism, people of color, older women, and women with disabilities. Over recent years, it has included information about genderqueer and transgender people. Most importantly, this book has spread important information and awareness. As Valenia said, information is power, real power.
Our Bodies Ourselves took a stand by being the first women's health book, giving women back power over their bodies, educating women about all aspects of women's health such as reproduction, abortion, and birth control, sparking discussion about women's sexuality and non-traditional relationships, and positively impacting women's rights.
But we were very conscious of saying, this is not right. And if we can fight for civil rights, if we can fight for anti-war, if we can fight for everybody but ourselves, we can fight for ourselves.
The legacy of Our Bodies Ourselves has continued to positively impact people all over the world. With the help of the book, The now nonprofit organization will continue to take a stand for women's rights until all women have access to a quality education about their bodies.